You've been asking yourself, like, how is this happening in the US? Why are they allowed to break the law? Well, I broke down the power structure in part one of this, and now in this part two, I'm going to give you the ugly truth on the loopholes in the law and how the Constitution gets exploited by continuing with my NFL analogy. In part one, I said a state passed a law saying all genders must be allowed to play in the NFL if they want to use publicly funded stadiums. Now, an advertiser is suing one of the teams, claiming that they broke their sponsorship agreement, which guaranteed no female players because it was signed before the state law was passed. Because this involves a state law, the advertiser has to sue in state court. And in the first round, the trial court actually rules in favor of the team, saying the advertiser didn't prove significant harm. The advertiser appeals to the state appellate court. Now, this court has a more conservative majority, and they overturn the court's ruling. So now the advertiser wins. Then the team appeals to the state Supreme Court. They overturn the appellate decision because the state constitution requires that all public facilities provide equal treatment regardless of gender, but the advertiser isn't giving up. They appeal to the US Supreme Court. SCOTUS ends up agreeing with the state Supreme Court in the sense that states may condition access to publicly funded facilities on compliance with state anti-discrimination laws. Now, here's the key. This sets precedent, meaning it establishes a legal standard that all courts must follow. Congress can't pass a law contradicting this ruling, but they can pass a law supporting it, which they end up doing, calling it the Fair Sports Act. Now all states have to comply, but they only have to comply with what the law specifically states. And here's where the loopholes come in. This is exactly what states do with federal laws and court precedent. They're going to allow all genders to try out, but claim that women don't qualify. So a woman ends up suing in federal court under the Fair Sports Act. The circuit court rules the law doesn't define qualifications, what becomes known as the tryout doctrine, creating a barrier to this Fair Sports Act. Now, another team puts a female on the roster, but they never give her playtime, so she sues. A different circuit court denies her claim, stating the law doesn't actually require playing time. Now we've created the playtime doctrine and another barrier. But some teams, the super conservative ones, purposely build their own stadiums with private funding to completely sidestep the law. They knew that they would get sued. They wanted to get it back in front of the US Supreme Court because new conservative justices have been appointed and they hold the majority. And it does. But this time it's under the First Amendment freedom of association arguments instead of discrimination. The court overturns the previous ruling holding that the Constitution does not mandate equal access to professional sports. The decision returns this issue back to the states, and this is exactly what happens with most major civil rights issues in this country. Section 1983, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Act, abort laws. Sometimes the court rules something isn't in the Constitution. Sometimes they rule what the Constitution was always intended to say, whether it was in there or not. And sometimes, like the recent immunity ruling, the court doesn't even provide a real explanation. And this is just to demonstrate just how weak laws are in this country. Any progress that happens ends up backtracking. So how do we fix that? Well, stay tuned for part three as I break down what can happen to make this more permanent.